Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am here with my weekly wrap up and I have some amazing books to talk about today. So we're going to quickly get started because I have a feeling that this might be a longer video. Who knows? But let's go ahead and get started with my weekly reads. Okay guys, so this week has been really good. I actually read 9 books this week, which was fantastic for me. I think I'm picking up the pace a little bit. It also probably has to do with the readathons I've been a part of this month. Being part of 2 is really pushing me to read more. So I have so much on my historical romance TBR that I'm like panicking because today's the 18th that I'm filming this. It's like the readathon ends on the 25th and I have so many historicals still get to, but then I have multiple arcs I have to get to this week too. So it's tough. So I'm really going to try and get as much historical done in the next week. But anyways, I finally got to some historical during this week, but I did also have some arcs and ALCs that I had to read too. So I read 9 books, which was fantastic. So to start off, I'm quickly going to bring this one up. It was a reread, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. We'll see how I do. But I reread The Highlander by Kerrigan Byrne. I read this last year, freaking loved it. It was fantastic, held up on a reread. I did end up reading this one. This one is Victorian Rebels number 3. Because it is a Governess one and I'm team Governess for the readathon, so I get extra points for reading Governess character. And this one is dark, so I get more points for dark, historical romance, all of that. So I did a reread of this because I also did want to finally finish the series and read The Duke, which I just started today. So this one was still fantastic. It is with Mina and Laird Liam Mackenzie, and it does open up very dark because Mina is in a very abusive marriage, and her husband has basically put her into an asylum because he doesn't want to deal with her anymore. He was abusive, probably pretty much like assaulted her on a daily basis, didn't want her to deal with her anymore, and so he put her in this asylum where she's basically being tortured when there's nothing wrong with her, and you know, being forced into ice baths, all this horrible treatment, which is just devastating because you got to think about at that time how asylums really were, that these patients were treated horribly and tortured, and you know, and they're just stuck, thrown in this asylum and forgot about, and they can do whatever they want to them in there. So that was a real issue back then. So it's very tough to read, but once you get past this beginning part, it's not as dark, but there are some dark gothic vibes to the book. So in this, she's actually about to get raped by one of the orderly guys, and the heroes from the first and second book end up breaking in and rescuing her. And so her husband is still going to be looking for her, and you know, during this time the woman did not really have a say, and so she was at risk. So they basically set her up to be a governess for Laird Liam Mackenzie. He was in the military, really fought battles. He's a single dad, got a couple kids. His wife had supposedly like killed herself. There's all these dark vibes because his father was extremely abusive and sadistic and like forced his sons to do that kind of behavior. You know, he has got like a bastard son that was pretty evil. There's all this stuff going on with that. And so she ends up showing up to this kind of gothic castle, you know, with dark vibes. She thinks she sees almost like a ghost or hears something. So it's definitely got some gothic good vibes. And she is just thrown by this man because he is gorgeous. He's broody. And he is smitten with her. So I love this because she's a super tall, redhead, curvy woman. And so she always felt really out of place in London and, you know, like too big. And these Scottish men did not have a problem with that at all. And I loved it. Liam like worships her. But you know, she's the governess and she is hiding her true identity. And you know, she's a woman on the run. So it's like, what can she do? But I love this because she really helps rebuild his relationship with his kids. They have such an amazing connection and chemistry. There's kind of like a threat going on, this mystery in the castle and all this stuff. So I love this. Highly recommend it. This series is fantastic. I know The Highwayman is some people's like favorite, but I've literally loved all three of those books were, I think, 5 stars for me. I haven't reread The Highwayman. That could maybe be a 6-star. I don't know. It depends on the reread, but highly recommend this series. So this one was still a 5 stars and 3 chilies. Loved it. Okay. So now on to one of my most anticipated reads from this year, and that is Born for Lace by Nikki Harris. So I loved Born for Silk. I read that last year. It was one of my top 10 reads. I think it was top 10. It might be top 10, 15. Anyways, it's in that video. I loved it. It was one of my favorites. And so I was really excited and anticipating this release. I am on Nikki Harris's ARC team, so I do love her writing. And I think what blew me away, Born for Silk, I gave 6 stars to last year. And I think what blew me away about that book was that Nikki had took such a detour, really took a risk and went away from writing her usual mafia romance to writing a dystopian kind of fantasy, crazy, post-apocalyptic, gritty, dark world. And the world building was fantastic and blew me away. So in this review, we're going into the second book. So I'm not going to go too deep into the world building because we'll be here a while because it's pretty complicated. But I'm going to try to remember to link or put it up here, my original review for Born for Silk, because if you're interested in the world and you want more information, watch that video because I know I do go into a lot more detail on it, especially when I gush about a 6-star, it's going to be a longer talking. So just to kind of sum it up, this is kind of a dystopian world. The climate has fucked up the world. So they ended up doing kind of some genetic enhancements and changes. And so we have the Zinde, and they are the genetically enhanced, and they are like 7-foot men, huge. They have enhancements to be able to like be out in those elements, and they're just a superior form to everybody else. So this is in the cradle. That's what this world is called. And there's also the trade. So the trade is kind of like everybody, like the common people and everybody out there in the world, they have a trade. It's their profession. It's their whole life's purpose. And they all live towards the meaningful purpose, which is everything they do is about that. That's their purpose in life. And they need to devote everything they have into that trade. So the first book, it was about kind of like the king type high up and a silk girl. So in that, I will kind of bring it up here. Her meaningful purpose, she was actually made, like she's raised in kind of luxury and kept apart because she has the ability to breed with the Zinde, which is it's very dangerous. They're huge. You could die in childbirth. There's a lot that goes into it. So these silk girls actually have the ability to do that. And so they are raised to be kind of like breeders for the king and then the higher up people. So that's their meaningful purpose. They are raised to believe that their only worth is to breed and offer that baby. And then they don't get to be a part of that baby's life or anything. So that's the whole thing in Born for Silk. So in this, we have a lace girl. And a lace girl, and it's kind of crazy when you hear the setup of this. She is given to kind of like men that work in the trade, higher ups, that deserve this, as kind of like a therapy or a mental health kind of help, because they are going through so much in their life. They're living this. They need to be able to have that release, and it helps their mental stability and their mental health. But the lace girls, the lace girls are, meant to be pure and, kept innocent of what they do. So what happens is they actually give them this kind of drug that puts them in a deep sleep, and the men can do whatever they want to that girl. And then, when she wakes up, she has no idea what happened to her. So she's kept pure and innocent. They're supposed to be treated with respect. So again, it's pretty crazy, but that's what a lace girl is. And they really believe in this purpose. You're raised from it's almost like cult, you're raised and, made to believe that this is your purpose. So in the beginning of this, we have Dahlia, and that is our lace girl. And she has her best friend and kind of mentor, part of her group, that she just died in childbirth. So she gave birth to a Zinde baby, and it was not a good birth because she was kind of hiding it from the trade. And she ends up dying in childbirth. But as she's dying, she lets Dahlia know, you need to take my baby and go on the run. Let me grab my notes real quick because this is kind of complicated and I want to make sure I give you guys everything. So, oh yeah, and it's called a collective. Now that I look at my notes, I remember. So this woman is part of the collective. This collective is for this one man, he has these lace girls. So basically, she tells her to go on the run, meet this man called Tomar near the docks. And she needs to take her baby and watch for her son and protect him and go on the run. So Dahlia is very sheltered. She's lived her whole life in this collective and things are kind of falling apart. There's shit going down. And so she needs to go on the run right then. And it's, she's running away from everything that she knew to protect this baby. And there's reasons why they need to go on the run from the trade, because if they get this baby, they're going to do things to it because it is special for reasons. And, they're not supposed to have children on their own. The children go to the trade. So, or the cradle, whatever you call it. Sorry, I'm all over the place. There's a lot of world building that goes into this. So watch that first video if you want to see more. So basically she runs into Tomar, and he actually has a Zinde, big, huge, scary, tattooed, kind of broody asshole guy with him named Lagos. And that is our hero. And she ends up going with them. Tomar is really, they call each other brothers, but they're really close friends because Tomar basically did something to rescue and help Lagos. So Lagos basically helps him for his life. So he's kind of a Zinde that's living away from what he's supposed to be doing. So they, Tomar, his meaningful purpose, he basically created it himself. It's his goal is to help as many people and, get people out of the trade if they need to. So this book is a lot grittier than the first book because that one was kind of in a palace and very sheltered girls. This is taking us out into the real world, and it's gritty, it's dark. There's a lot of, bad shit going on out there. And so they kind of go on a run. So this is a post-apocalyptic kind of on the run survival kind of story. And so they end up going to this community first where it's they can go hide for a little bit, where all these people go to hide. And then their goal is to get her to this community that takes on people to get away from the trade and all of that. And they would protect her and the baby. So that's kind of the crazy journey we're going to go on now. Lagos is very kind of broody, pushes her away. He's an asshole for a lot of this. The book was a little bit slower for me on this one than the first one. I was immediately engaged in the first one and I was hooked. This one was a little bit slower because it's really Dahlia's journey because she's been so sheltered and her wonder at seeing the world. And she's just got wide eyes and just in awe of everything. And Lagos wants to push her away. He's very damaged, scarred type of wounded hero. And there's a lot that he's been through. It's very traumatic, his backstory. So I don't want to spoil anything, but he can't keep away from her, and he's very possessive over her. So they start this journey to keep this baby safe. Now I am keeping a lot of stuff vague here because I don't want to give away a lot of the stuff, but I did really love this. I didn't love it as much as Born for Silk. That one just really hit me a little bit harder, but I think this is really good. It's a good Grumpy Sunshine, broody, damaged hero. Like, there's a lot, and there's some beautiful emotional parts in this. I love Dahlia's character and how strong she was and how hard she fought to be with him, because there's a lot of struggles along the way and stuff that comes into play that has to do with his past and how he was. And there's stuff that has to do with the baby. So I'm being vague, but I just don't want to ruin anything for you. So I did really love this, but it wasn't the same level as Born for Silk for me. I think that one just blew me away because I was so impressed with Nicci's world that she created and how impressive it was. So this one I ended up giving a 4.5 star. And then I think I gave it, 3.5 chilies. Some trigger warnings I do want to mention is the mother's death during childbirth. That can be pretty traumatic. So that does happen here. There is an attempted SA, violence, brainwashing, conditioning, torture, death. There's a lot of dark stuff in here. Some kinky stuff that I wanted to bring up was there is lactation kink in here, because that's another thing that is so hard. Is she has this baby that she did not give birth to, so she's not lactating. She doesn't have milk. We're in a world where they aren't allowed to have babies. The babies are for the trade in the cradle. So how are they going to get milk? How are they going to get even the whatever? So that was a struggle. So they found a way to kind of give her these pills that will hopefully help her lactate. But that was like a huge stress for her, because how do we feed this baby? And it was like, it takes up the stakes a lot in this book. So, and then he's too big. Obviously he's huge, some rough sex. So some good kinky times. So I had a good time with it. And I definitely recommend this series. I'm so excited for the next one because I thought we were going to go to the king's sister from the first one. Roman, I think his name was. But the next one, we're going to get to that. So I am excited. I think it was cool that she did it this way, because now we're seeing the whole world and how everyone's living outside of that kind of elite community. All right. So sorry, that was a lot of info. Okay, so then I had an ALC. I listened to Devour the Dark. Last week, I talked about the first part of this, which was, I think, Devour of Men. I think that's what it was called. Anyways, this is the second part of the duet. This is by Nicci St. Crowe. This is the Devour duet, I believe. And so this is finishing up. We're going to pick up right where the last one left off. And this is a retelling of, so if you've read the Lost Boys series, I think it's important you read that one before you read this one, which is the Peter Pan retelling. And that's a reverse harem, why choose relationship with a bunch of the guys in the Lost Boys series. So this is the original Wendy and Wendy Darling and Croc, which his name is Rock, and Hook. And so it's their romance. So I did feel like in the first one, I was missing a lot of their backstory. It was like you were just thrown in, and I felt like maybe I hadn't read The Lost Boys in forever. So I forgot. I think it's called The Lost Boys or Vicious Boys, whatever. Sorry, guys. I felt like maybe I forgot a bunch of it. And so maybe that's why I didn't realize Rock and Hook and Wendy's whole backstory. I kind of wanted more of that, or flashbacks or something, but we didn't really get it. And this one, we're picking up right where that left off, because they did get Wendy, they found her, and Rock actually devoured this bad witch character, and now he can't control his shifts, which he shifts into this beast Croc type of thing. And so they need to get him help, and so they're going to go to his brother, which is Vane, and he was in that previous series. So if you haven't read that series, you might be totally lost. I really liked this one more than the first one because I loved those characters. Vane was my favorite character in that series, of course. And so to see him again was great. So they go back, and they need to go back to actually Rock and Vane's home. And that's the journey. So there's a lot of like being on the ship and their journey. All of them are joining in from that previous book. And so it's a journey to go try and save Rock. And we're going to have to deal with his original like home. So I do think that she is going to be doing, I think I saw it was announced that she is going to be doing a Rock and Vane, I think like origin story. So I would be really interested in that one. So I liked this one. I don't think it like blew me away romance wise. Wendy was having a lot of insecurities, which I thought was kind of annoying, but I thought it was good. Like I liked it. I like Rock the most. He's my favorite character in this. He's the bad boy. He's like, I love him. So it was good, but I listened to this on audiobook and it had a full cast, and I believe it was duet narration. Yes, it was duet narration. Sorry, I forgot to write that down. And it was the main, though, three that narrated our main characters was Shane East, Robert Hatchett, and Stella Hunter. And then we have a bunch of other narrators that are doing all like the side characters. So the audiobook is really good. I got through it really quickly. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so then I got to another historical romance. So I was trying to get through some Governess ones because I really need to get points for my team because we were like in last place 2 weeks in a row. I mean, we do have the smallest team, but like I'm trying. So I listened to The Game and the Governess by Kate Noble. This is the second book in the Winner Takes All series. I have never read this author before, so it was a new to me author. This one was between about obviously like this Earl. So anyways, his name is Lord Edward Granville, Earl of Ashby, and he's really like not a likable character through most of this book. He's very I don't even know how to like a dandy almost. Like he's very, like he's called Lucky Ned because everything goes his way. He's very just kind of conceited and thinks everything should be handed to him. And he just is very, privileged. And he does a bet with his friends that he could switch places with his secretary and still get a girl to fall in love with him. Not with him having to be the Lord or is he a Lord? Earl, sorry. Not being an Earl, he could still get women to fall in love with him because it's all about him and he's so likable. As you could tell, I was kind of irritated by his character a little bit. And so they kind of make this deal. They swap places and they're going to be going out to like where his mother's like home originally was to kind of deal with selling that or figuring out how to sell that. And nobody really knew him there. They knew him as a kid or whatever, so they could swap places pretty easily. And that's when he realizes his lines, his manner isn't really likable to a lot of people because it rubs everybody the wrong way there. They don't want to deal with him as a secretary. The women are kind of like, don't want anything to do with him. And so he's kind of like screwed. He's like, shit, what do I do? So he ends up kind of having these one-on-ones with the Governess, and her name is Phoebe, and she actually hates the Earl. She doesn't know him personally, but the Earl basically, I think he had somebody that did something financially. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, guys. That messed with her dad financially, and her father had written like a letter to him for help, and it was totally disregarded, and it brought them to financial ruin. And so she like it changed her life, and so she hated him. But she doesn't know he's the actual Earl. She thinks he's just a secretary. So they start to kind of connect, and he realizes, hey, I can get this girl to fall in love with me. It doesn't have to be a lady or whatever. And so it's kind of a hidden identity, obviously. Things are not going to go great when she realizes he's the actual Earl. But the thing is, I was pretty bored through 60% of this book. It was very slow. There wasn't a lot of stuff going on between them. But the last half picked up a little bit where I liked it. He does have a character arc. He really realizes how shitty he's been and took an advantage of people. Even realizing how he took advantage of his friend, that's his secretary. And so he really does have a character arc here, and he does grow up. And so I did appreciate that. He starts to really fall for her. So then he just he's just going to throw in the towel and lose the bet, because he doesn't want to do that to her. But she's really into him. And so I don't know. So there is obviously going to be the third act conflict of her realizing who he really is. And there was a lot of stuff going on at the end that got a little chaotic a little bit. So this one wasn't my favorite, but I thought it was good for at least his growth as his character. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars and 2 chilies. Okay, so another one of my most anticipated reads, which I was so excited to get to, was Hold the Line by Julia Wolf. You know, I love Julia Wolf. And this book was amazing. Like, I loved this book. We have another book, Boyfriend. I think she wrote a very different hero, but very, like, I don't know, he's this quiet, silent, very reserved, but emotional and like sweet man. And I just loved him. So in this, we have, Deacon Slater, and then we have another Phoebe Kelly. And, you know, Phoebe is the daughter of one of my favorite couples, Locke and Elena from, Wolf Like Poison? I just totally, Sweet Like Poison? I just combined her name with the title. Anyways, I love that book. And so this is their parents. That was her parents. They have a ranch. Phoebe is the curvy, boisterous, just happy, beautiful ray of sunshine daughter. She owns her own bakery in town. She didn't really want to live on the ranch, so she lives in a place down the street from her bakery. And her sister had lived right above her, but now she's moved in with her boyfriend. And, you know, now she has a new neighbor, and that is Deacon Slater. And Deacon Slater comes from like the Slater family. Everybody looks down on them. His parents were horrible, losers, lowlifes, treated him like shit, abandonment issues, all that. And Deacon actually went to prison. He's been out for a couple years, but he's just now returning to home because he's very judged there for being an ex-con and for his family. He did go to jail because I think he was like driving the car or something when like his brother committed a crime, but really it fell on him. And so he basically kind of got the book thrown at him and he went to jail. I don't know if he went to prison for like 4 years. I can't remember, but you know, he had a really tough time and he just wants to move on and separate himself from his family and his brother. He wants nothing to do with his brother. So he moves in above Phoebe, and Phoebe actually had a crush on him in high school. And so she was really excited to see him and like offered to give him her sweets. He denied her and she kind of couldn't understand it. Like, you don't want my sweets? It's her way of like showing love and care and welcoming him and being a good neighbor. But the thing is he is allergic, like deathly allergic to peanuts. And, you know, that was an issue for him in prison too, because, you know, he could go and he almost died. And so he can't really trust, you know, if there's cross-contamination or anything like that. But since her nephew has that same allergy problem, it's all safe in her bakery. And so he's able to, you know, eat her sweets. And I love it, like how he devours her sweets and like shows trust in her. And he just never got to eat that type of stuff. And he had to be so careful. So I don't know. I just love those scenes where she would bring him her baked goods. But he started off a little brushing her off. But one day he was kind of walking by the bakery because he was curious of it, like later in the night, you know, when it was closing. And he happens to see a guy that was being like really rough and manhandling Phoebe. And so he jumps in there, defends her, attacks the guy, and she has him leave. She's like, I don't want you to get into any trouble because of this. I'm just going to tell the police I chased him off with a bat or a rolling pin or whatever. And so she kind of sends him off. But now he feels really protective over her and kind of like walks her home, and they start really hanging out. And the thing is that Deacon actually had a crush on her too. He really crushed on her in high school too. And, you know, just never thought she would ever be interested in him. And that's the thing is, like, when you see Deacon, like, he is just so in awe of her. He worships her. He adores her, and he just doesn't think he's worthy of her. And he also doesn't want her to be sucked into his family drama, because his brother keeps reaching out to him. So they actually start to try and date. And there is a point where they come against it. And this kind of has an earlier split with them, because he ends up acting like he didn't know who she was, or like he knew who she was, but wasn't acknowledging her when he was out with his brother, because he does not want his brother to know he's into her or with her, because he knows his brother will use that against him. But Phoebe's very hurt by this. She had a previous relationship where he kept her a secret. And so she just feels like, I'm not dealing with this. Like, I'm not going to deal with you lying and hiding me and all of that. So they do kind of end up ending things. But, you know, he does realize his mistake, and he does a little grovel and tries to show her, you know, he will never lie to her again. And he kind of explains the situation, because he wasn't even going to explain it to her at first, because he thinks he should just push her away because he's not good enough and he doesn't want her involved. But like, he adores her. So, and it's just beautiful because they have such a sweet relationship, and they move slow with their sex because he's inexperienced. I'm not going to say at what experience level he's at, because I love that surprise in this book, but I loved it. There were so many sweet moments. Like, they really just felt like they were in love. Like, and it wasn't about sex or how she looks. Like, it was about the person. And I just love how Julia Wolf can do that in her books. And I will say, this is one of the things that I put in my review as a side note. I loved that she is a curvy, you know, plus size type of woman, and it wasn't repeatedly brought up. It wasn't constantly in her head about her body type. She accepted who she was. I wish I could be like this. Like, I loved it where it wasn't constantly a thing of like beating the woman up or judging her because she's big or anything. It was not like that at all. And Deacon worships her body. Like, he loves her curves. He loves everything about her. So I just adored this book. I love the found family aspect of it, because these Kelly, you know, her mom was amazing in this. And I love Elena. Like, Elena steps up in this big time, and just seeing the Kelly family come together for Deacon. And there is a third act suspense stuff that was like, okay, I don't know if it was like fully needed, but it did go with the story. And I loved it so much. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars and 2.5 chilies. I don't know if I said this, but this was the second book in that series, the Kelly Ranch series. Some trigger warnings are the kidnapping, family, like abusive family member, like abandonment, all of that, and murder. And then I will just say Deacon stole my heart. Like, Deacon is a book boyfriend material. Oh, he is so swoony. And I love that she doesn't let him beat himself up and feel less than. She like lifts him up and tells him that he is worthy, you know, worthy of her. And I love that they fought, like they had to deal with the struggle in their relationship and kind of miscommunication and shit early in the book. So like, we didn't have a third act breakup or anything. Like, we already dealt with that and worked through it and got stronger as a couple. Okay, I'm already talking about this way too long, but I loved it. Okay, so then I went to another Governess book. So I picked up A Night Like This by Julia Quinn. This is the second book in the Smythe Smith quartet. I didn't read the first book, so I don't think you need to if you want to jump into this one. But this is between Daniel and Anne. And this one had a really interesting setup, which I guess from reading reviews was kind of like set up at the end of the first book. But Daniel is forced to kind of go into exile, go on the run, because he kind of has a drunken night, gambling, and has a duel with one of his friends who was like accusing him of cheating. And the duel went wrong. He accidentally almost killed his best friend, one of his friends, but maimed him badly where he'll never be able to walk right again. And so that his friend's father is like, I will kill you. I will hunt you down. I will hunt you and I'll kill you. So he ends up having to go on run. But his friend kind of comes to him, lets him know, hey, it's okay now. Like they mended the fence. They were okay. It was his father that was going after Daniel. And so he lets him know, hey, it's okay to come back home now. You can return home. So now he's returned home. And that's when he immediately sees the governess. She doesn't know she's the governess yet, but he sees Anne, and Anne is the governess to his 3 wayward cousins. I love these girls and how good Anne was with them. And he sees her performing because they were doing like a musical performance, and he is immediately smitten, and he kind of hunts her down and kisses her and goes all for it. And so I thought that was kind of crazy, but they definitely have a really big attraction. But Anne is actually in hiding. She is a woman on the run. Has a hidden kind of identity because something really bad happened in her past, that her parents basically kind of had her go away. It's very scandalous, it's very traumatic, and all this stuff. So she has a big past that she's on the run from. I won't bring up what happened because that's a big part of the story. But so she's kind of hiding who she is. So she's like, we can't be together. Like, I'm a governess. I'm hiding who I really am. I can't be with you. But he is so smitten and wants to be with her. So he's really trying to woo her and win her over. But there are also some like freak accidents and almost attempts on their life that like he thinks that father is still after him. But is it really the father or somebody from Anne's past? That's like the suspense element in this. So I really had a great time with this. I thought it was really fun. I loved the governess stuff in it, the cousins and their relationship. And it was just really sweet. It was very swoony. Like he was very into her and couldn't stay away from her. And so I had a good time with it. I did think the suspense element at the end kind of dragged on longer than I think it needed to. But I thought this was really fun. So I gave this one 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so then I had an ALC, and what's funny is this is actually going to be our buddy read for June. So I already read it, but I agreed to this because I think it'll be a good read for everybody, and I hadn't like read it yet. But I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do this because it's going to be a fun one. So anyways, this is Bartered, Innocence, and it's by B. Sobjakken. I found out that's how you say last name, so I hope I didn't butcher it. But this is my first time reading this author. This is the first book in the Made Men of Manhattan, and this is a mafia arranged marriage, kind of like a forced marriage situation. So in this, we have Ryan and Isabella, and Isabella is part of the Italian mafia. She's got ties to it. She's not like the direct daughter of somebody big time or anything, but her family does have ties to the mafia. Her only goal, she doesn't really want anything to do with the mafia, but she wants to run her father's restaurant. And she's been really trying to prove herself, working for years to kind of run the restaurant. But of course, it's a man's world, and they always kind of keep her kind of helping, but not fully in charge yet. And it's like her biggest passion. And she finds out that she's going to be part of this book type thing where they're going to be doing an arranged marriage, and she's going to be part of the women that are going to be able to be chosen from. And so she's infuriated because she didn't want anything to do with this. And so she decides she's going to go out. She's going to hook up with a stranger, lose her virginity, and then that way she's not pure for this arranged marriage. So she goes and has a one-night stand with this sexy Irish guy. And this is Ryan. And lo and behold, he's the head of the Irish mafia. So who do you think this arranged marriage is going to end up being for? It's going to be for Ryan. He's supposed to pick somebody. So they have this amazing one-night stand. It's hot. They have a great time, but she kind of sneaks out when she sees his like tattoo and she realizes, oh, he's a part of this mafia world. Shit. So she gets the hell out of there. Well, he's supposed to be the one doing this arranged marriage, and he sees her in that list and sees her picture, and he's like, I want her. So he kind of is going to she's trying to fight it, this forced marriage. He kind of blackmails her into it about how they had sex and he'll let them all know and all this kind of stuff. So she kind of has to go along with it. And so they end up getting married, and he, brings her home with him, and they immediately are banging away. They're very much sexually attracted to each other. Let me pull this up real quick because I think I have a list of stuff that's in here kinky wise, if I remember if I added it. But she's kind of fighting him a lot of the way because she still wants to do stuff with her, the restaurant. She wants to work for a restaurant, but she's part of the Irish now. She can't just go be with the Italian. Now, will I say this kind of fell apart for me? I really liked their romance, their sexual connection. It was spicy. They had great banter. The thing that like confused me, and I might reread it next month to try and see if it was just me going too fast through this book or what, was the mafia plot line. I read a lot of mafia, so it's not like the plots usually go above my head, but I felt like it was kind of all over the place, and I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on because it was somebody in her mafia that had like secret spies in his, and then like, did he set her up with him to do this in the first place at this club? It was kind of a chaotic mess when it came to the mafia plotline, and I was having trouble like figuring it out. Now, that might just be a me problem because I was going through this pretty quickly. I actually no, I didn't. That was a different audiobook. Sorry. But I just kind of felt like it needed to be a little bit more straightforward and clear and concise on what the mafia stuff that was going on. Otherwise, the relationship, the arranged marriage, I liked all that. Now, the heroine does do some too stupid to live stuff, but I've kind of come to expect that in a mafia romance. I just have. I see it all the time. So what I will say, let me see if I have it here. Some of the kinky stuff we got going on in here. We do have breeding. He's all about breeding her, and she's pretty accepting to like realizing she wants to be with him, realizing she does want to have his baby, but then she's still fighting for this restaurant thing. Like she won't give it up, even though he was offering to like have her open up her own restaurant. She still was fighting it because it was all about her wanting to prove herself to her father and all that. So I think that's all I put on here. I don't know. So yeah, so it's Irish mafia, one night stand, forced blackmail marriage, touch her and die, breeding kink, found family. So it was a good time. And then this one was narrated by Lance Greenfield and Angelina Roca. I really enjoyed the audiobook. I think I listened to this literally in like one day. So I did fly through this audiobook pretty quickly. I know this is her first full-length novel or book. She usually does like some novellas. So I did think it was really good for what I wanted. So some trigger warnings are death of a parent, torture, and then kind of like a tattoo branding situation that, you know, some people might not like. I never really totally mind it unless it's branding. So it's technically a tattoo, but she feels like it's a brand on her. Anyways. But it's to protect her, you guys. It's to protect her. So this book is actually going to be our buddy read for June. The live show will be on Bestie Book Reviews channel on June 29th. It is already out right now, so you can get the ebook. The audiobook is out. The audiobook was great. So you'll have plenty of time to read that this time. Unlike this last book, we had to like really rush it. So, had a good time. I gave it 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so then I read an arc, Mine by Clio Evans. And this is a heavily erotic romance. BDSM, a lot of BDSM. But I loved the way this BDSM was. I think if you're new to BDSM and you want to kind of see what all the dynamics are, how it should be with Dom subs and the communication and trust and everything that goes into a BDSM dynamic, I think this book is a really good book to get into because it really goes into that deeply and it's taken very seriously. And so I really, really loved it. I will say at first, I was kind of thinking it was going to be a basic rating, like, okay, because there's a lot of sex in it. And you know how I am. I get kind of checked out with repeated sex scenes. But this is an erotic romance. So their relationship is growing through each of those sexual scenes. And by the time we're getting a little bit deeper into the book, we're getting a lot more of emotional connection and opening up and being vulnerable about their shared histories or like, you know, trauma. Okay, I'm diving in already, but that made it a better book for me. So anyways, this book is between Salt. Okay, you're going to laugh at this. Salt and Pepper. Salt is not his first name. So I think his first name, I wrote it down. Sorry, guys. I forgot. I think it's Simon. Okay. So his first name is Simon. He is an artist. He's a musician. He kind of has thirst traps online where he has like a half mask he wears and he plays his guitar and sings. And so women are just going crazy for him. He has just gotten a band together to kind of back him up. And this is in Nashville and he is kind of drawing the eye. So he's kind of an up and coming artist here. And Pepper is actually the CEO of a record label that she created with like her friend and her ex-husband. Unfortunately, this ex-husband is a fucking asshole. This guy is a loser that basically mooches off her, doesn't do his responsibilities in the company, and he actually cheated on her with his assistant or whatever and had a baby with her. And so they've been split for like a year and a half or 2 years, and she really hasn't been with anybody since. You know, she is actually an older heroine, so this is a reverse age gap. And so she's having to deal with him daily at work, doesn't know how to get out of this. And she kind of lets him get away with things that she really shouldn't. But she grew up in a really like conservative, she does say cult. So I think it was a cult type thing where it was all about religion and making you feel guilty about your sexual interests. So she does have darker, kinkier interests that her ex-husband wouldn't do with her. And so she always felt like shame about it. And so she hasn't really got to experience that. So one of her workers basically tells her, we need this new artist. Salt is amazing. We got to go check him out. And so she usually doesn't really go to the clubs anymore or performances, but she does end up going, and she immediately falls under Salt's spell. And the thing is they met each other briefly. She didn't see his face before because she was at a coffee shop and Jeff, her ex-husband, was giving her shit and she was fighting with him like on the phone, and Salt was behind her and he was like, hang up that phone. And he basically kind of goes into Dom mode and like tells her to hang up on him. And then he calls her a good girl. And she was just so like blown away because she is a powerful woman. She's always in charge. And that's what I love about these BDSM dynamics is sometimes a woman that always has to be that type A, have everything in control, always be on top of everything. They want to take away that responsibility and have, you know, be submissive and be able to have somebody tell them what to do. So she never realized this about herself. When he says that to her, she immediately like does it. And she's like turned on by it. And so she gets flummoxed and kind of leaves. But she recognized his voice when he was singing. So they end up seeing each other in the hallway after he leaves. And he's immediately into her. He hasn't stopped thinking about her since the coffee shop. And so he kind of offers to walk her home. And he immediately goes for it and is like, I want you. I want I want to F you, like, take me home with you. And she fights it, but he's like, because she knows he could be one of their artists. She knows his talent when she saw it, and she wants him. And she can't be the CEO and be sleeping with one of her clients. And so they kind of end up doing it and deciding, oh, it's just going to be for this night. But she is definitely not going to stop at the one night. So they end up even just doing like what her fantasies are. Like, Salt is so commanding. He's younger than her. I think he's like 25 and she's mid 30s. So it's a bigger age gap, and she's very worried about the age gap, but he's very mature. He had a very abusive home life. His father beat him all the time, blamed him for the mother dying, I think in childbirth. So he really lived in just being beaten every day and just a horrible lifestyle. So he's very mature, and he actually kind of ran away like on his own, and he was taken in by this lesbian couple that was very into the BDSM. They did a club. They make their own make BDSM furniture. And so he was taken in by them, and he kind of learned the ways of BDSM and got involved in that. He also makes furniture. And so he's very knowledgeable. He's taken classes. He's done this for years. And so he's able to guide her through the BDSM dynamic and lifestyle in a very smart way with safe words, talking about her and what she's into, making her be vocal about everything, like not letting her just, let the scene get out of hand. He always is checking in. He's very into aftercare. So that first night, they literally jump right into doing what she wants, which is CNC, and they do that. And they just have such an amazing sexual connection. You see it right away where they can't stop thinking about each other. She tries to push him away and not do this. But Salt is not having it. He is obsessed and he wants her. And so they start this sexual relationship. It's secretive because he's going to become one of her artists. And she's like worried about the age gap and how people will view her. But what made this book so great was the growth of Pepper. How she found her sexuality, how she learned to fight for herself and not just put everything into the business. She learns her self-worth and what she really wants, and that it's not shameful to have these interests. And they just really go for it with each other. And what I loved even more was once they got further in their sexual relationship, we get into the parents, and they talk about their previous trauma with their parents, and they really get to know each other and have such these intimate moments. When you're going to such a dom sub relationship, you really have to have trust and communication, and they just really had that. So I really loved this. So I was gonna go 4.5, but just with that communication, the BDSM life, how it's represented, and I just loved that in this. I love the communication and how sweet Salt was. He was a dom, but he was so, he was always worried that he went too far, and he would always want to check in with her. And he was just so sweet and swoony. This man was just built for me, man. It was perfect. I loved him. So, yeah, so I ended up not doing 4.5, but 5 stars for this. And then I gave it 5 chilies because it is spicy. So some of the kinky times we have in here is shibari, obviously BDSM, spanking, impact play, CNC, squirting, butt play, there's toys, edging, and there's kind of a snowballing scene. I kind of want to count it because he doesn't put it fully in her mouth, but he does take it. I don't know if I should bring that up here, but anyways, I love those scenes. So I had a great time with this. If you love BDSM where it takes it in a really emotional or serious way instead of the stupid 50 Shades of Grey BDSM that's represented, that's bullshit. This is the real BDSM kind of dynamic that you want to see in a romance. So I really enjoyed it. Okay, so the last book that I read this week was Finn by Melanie Moreland, and this is the first book. It's another duet. I think this is my first mafia romance I've actually read by Melanie Moreland, and I really loved it. I had a good time with this audiobook. This is the first part of the duet. It's the Irishman book 1. But this will finish, the first part finishes Finn's romance. So the next one I think is Niall. So you're going to get a HEA in this, and it's going to conclude his story. So this is, Finn is the head of the Toronto Syndicate. He's Irish mafia. He also owns like casinos and stuff. And this is a second chance romance. He has been in love with Una for years. He was smitten with her when she was younger, kind of waited. Then he tried to pursue her. You get their kind of history in flashbacks throughout the book. And you kind of see what happened with them because they are no longer together. She ended things because she didn't want anything to do with the mafia, and she didn't want him to risk his own life to protect her, that type of thing. But Finn is patiently waiting for her. He wants her back. She works in his hotel. She also sings at his hotel and casino. And she's got this loser brother that's kind of part of his mafia that he kind of just tolerates because of her. But he keeps fucking up. But this brother keeps fucking up and pushing it because he knows he can get away with it because he knows Finn loves his sister. And if anything happened to him or whatever, she wouldn't forgive him. So her brother is a freaking loser in this book. But something like he's patiently waiting. He wants to be back with her. He's never with anybody else. He's just completely devoted to Una. And, you know, it takes some time for her to realize that, you know, she shouldn't be putting them through this, that they belong together. And so, you know, when something happens, he eventually says, like, I can't wait anymore. Like, we belong together. I want you with me. And then she does kind of make that decision on her own as well. So they do, you know, get back together. But there's a lot of shit going on with her brother and other stuff going on. There was a character, Roman, that was brought in this. And I know that was another mafia duet she had. So I really want to read that one too. So I really enjoyed this. This was narrated by John Lane and Maxine Mitchell. And John Lane did an Irish accent perfectly. Like, I did have to slow it down because sometimes I have to really slow down. I usually listen at 2.5, 2.7, and I put it down lower because I really like with his accent. It's pretty, you know, it's perfect Irish accent, but I really had to slow it down for that one. But I really had a good time with it. The brother stuff was kind of annoying, but this was a super sweet, swoony mafia hero, and it was a good time. So I was kind of bouncing between 4.5 stars. So I'm probably going to give it a 4.5 star because I did really enjoy it, but there was some stupid stuff with the brother. But I know that was there for a reason. There is some darker stuff near the end. So some of the trigger warnings I have is kidnapping, an abusive family, and then sex trafficking. Oh, and there is drug use and drug addiction, drug dealing, all of that kind of stuff in here too. So I don't know. I'm 4.5 star. I'm kind of waffling, but I really love the audiobook. So I think I'm going to give it a 4.5 star. And then it was 3 chilies. So those are all the books that I read this week. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, I appreciate you. Make sure you like, give me a comment, and make sure you subscribe. All right, I will see you guys on the next one.